All right, we thought we were settling in for a long one with Series 1. Apparently not, because Chiefs are just looking so dominant at the moment, Juves.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like they have a very good plan. They have a plan, and it is to get Croc on these like tempo early game, not early game, but tempo junglers that just put the jungle on cooldown, do a bunch of damage, whilst he has consistent prio in the mid lane, or at least a kill threat, like a one-shot threat. You know, while Renekton may not get prio in certain matchups, the Renekton flash stun into a Karthus or into an Italy Spear is just enough to kill any mid laner at the moment, and Direwolves just don't have an answer. And the concerning thing about me, which I said to Rusty kind of off broadcast.
For you or about you?
I don't know what I said, but the concerning thing about this series, you know, I didn't know this was an English class, because if it was, you guys wouldn't have hired me, because my English is literally my third language.
I just thought maybe you were about to confess something, and I just wanted to prepare the audience for that.
So now we make fun of people that don't speak English very well. Okay, great.
Wow, yes,
Yes.
I'm the bad
Yes.
guy, Juves.
No. So what I was going to say was, whilst this game, I want to give a big shout out to Dragku, because I think he had a blinder of a performance in certain team fights. Direwolves actually lost this game with a 2v2 kill in the bot lane and a 50 CS lead. If a 50 CS lead bot lane isn't enough to play around to win the game or transition that lead elsewhere, I don't know what's left.
Yeah, like it was what, 20 CS in mid, it scaled
Yeah.
up to 50 CS in bot lane, and the thing that and so this is the one really important thing that the Chiefs do very well, and they are continuing to do in this series, right? Their style hasn't changed, they're skirmishing incredibly well. They're able to pick up kills even with the CS deficit, so like, you could say that they're sacrificing CS to set this up, but that's not really true, because Direwolves are taking the fights. You know, they're forcing through the jungle so well, Chiefs, that they're pressuring Direwolves into saying, well, we have to draw the line somewhere, right? And then they're just hard winning it. If Direwolves ever overextend, they have priority. They catch Direwolves out constantly, the Chiefs. It's just outstanding from their early game strategy. And that actually makes up for the CS differences and puts them in this position to continue to scale into the game. And giving Croc that agency is just ridiculous for the Chiefs.
And it feels like they're going back to their roots a little bit, right? You know, Chiefs had those hiccups during the regular season where they were picking things like the Sejuani and trying to play styles that really just didn't resonate with the way that they've kind of formed their identity. And, you know, when we knew Croc to be that powerhouse that he was, it was always on these carry junglers to see these performances. And it almost feels like, you know, these playoffs, they said, oh, okay, you know, guys, we just have to stop. We've got to go back to our identity, which was get Croc that enabling jungler. You know, sometimes it's not the jungler that is the most playmaking ability, right? Like Karthus and Italy aren't the biggest playmakers in the world. But we know when it comes down to a skirmish or when it comes down to the crucial kind of team fight, Croc's going to do what he needs to do. And just feels like, again, all the eggs are in his basket. But then if I say that, it feels like I'm taking away from the performance of Tien, able to pick up that 1.5-man solo kill in the top lane onto Chippies. And like, you know, credit to Katsuri and Draku, had a bit of a rough laning phase, but they were able to have significant team fight impacts.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, we can definitely compliment the Chiefs, and I think they're deserving of the compliments as well from the way they played this game out. But Direwolves just couldn't team fight to save their lives, Juves, and that was the first thing you said, right? Like, the fact that they're going to throw an Ashe and a Bard ult at the same time, twice, and then lose the team fight, like, oh my god, work it out, you know? Like, that shouldn't happen that many times in a row.
No, they genuinely lost the skirmish because they chain CC'd their ultimates. It was going to hit, Ashe ult was going to hit Karthus, then he got Bard ulted, right? You pick one or the other. You know, for me at that situation, it should have been the Ashe ultimate, but what that says to me is that there's actually communication problems within this roster. And so how does that look now in terms of dynamic? What do they do? Because for me, as Direwolves, if you're a Direwolves fan, Chippies can't be on Ornn anymore, right? It doesn't matter how many games he's put in on that champion, it doesn't work for them. They have, you know, Ornn's arguably the most proactive top laner in League of Legends. You can start a fight from half a screen away. You have an Ashe arrow to assist in doing so, yet they're actually starting no fight ever. And like you said, we was talking about rather, it's that it just feels like he hasn't been playing the game. He hasn't been there. It's just been a Bard ult that started the fight, disengaged, an Ashe ult that's gone flying by, and it just feels so disjointed. And when you look at Chiefs, on the other hand, it's a 4-man set drag back into a slam, into a Karthus flashing forward to a 4-5-man defile, and it looks really good. And this is kind of the Chiefs that scared teams in Split 1, and we're actually seeing them kind of come to, you know, Game 2 in the playoffs, which is a real scary thought if you're a team watching this series.
for sure.
So then, Juice, like you touched on that at the end of the last game, and then a much bigger problem in this game, the fact that Direwolves are playing so passively, like you're talking about. The sitting back and waiting, is that a lack of confidence with what's going on? Is it bad shot calling? Is it overconfidence that they think they can just handle whatever the Chiefs will bring to them, and then it just goes bad every time?
If I may, what it looks like is that there's no cohesion between the team and their jungler. Like, that's because the Direwolves, it's not like they're not winning lanes. It's not like they don't have leads somewhere to make a play happen. But it just feels like there's no communication between the lanes to set up a play or make something happen. After the little river shenanigans in the early game, I thought, great, Direwolves are in for a really good early game, and they're in for a big shot to win this, right? I go, okay, we're going to see Lilia pass the bot lane any minute now. We're going to see maybe a dive, maybe some neutral objectives go down, but it really almost feels like they're just not talking to each other when they're playing.
And Rusty, we've been talking about, over the course of the split, Chiefs obviously ending the end of the regular split lower than they would have liked and possibly than we would have expected when we started. And Juice has been talking about how he reckons that part of that has been drafting problems with them. Have you been happier with the drafts that Chiefs have brought out here, and can that kind of momentum carry them into this third game and get them the win?
Yeah, I mean, Chiefs and Direwolves put themselves into an elimination round here, right, in the lower bracket, so definitely not where we expect them to be ever. But the way that this draft has panned out, and this was one of the key factors as to why they're looking so successful, is Croc's always looked his best on things like Nidalee. He's had Nidalee and Karthus 2 games in a row, and then what they've done to actually help that is they've got a Renekton. We've only seen it mid, but it's still a flex. So that's another tool that they're actually drafting early, and flex picks are massive. For teams to find success in their own style, it seems like the Chiefs have actually settled on this Renekton pick. Claire looks good, and all of the issues that the Chiefs seem to have is now giving Tan this counter pick. Claire looks fine. They're giving priority to Croc. That's it. Like, that's all the recipes that a squad like the Chiefs need to actually win games of League, and they've found it through this new pick. So you really do have to look at this, and if I was Direwolves, I'd honestly ban the Renekton, I think, as one of the key things here, because that flex may be the issue.
And Juice, how badly are Direwolves going to have to pivot now? Like, you've spoken about the fact that Chippies has got to get off the Ornn. What else do they need to do to win this game?
I think you need to put Mir on a proactive jungler, right? He's arguably one of the best Lee Sins on this server, so even putting him on something like the Lee Sin, something like the Graves, just giving him a little bit of agency in the jungle matchup. And sometimes agency from the jungle doesn't necessarily mean the champion you pick, but what it means is the lanes that you pick. And at the moment, right, they're matching the Renekton with the Azir, which is completely fine. They're going up in CS, but you still, even if you're 20 CS up, you do not have the potential to skirmish around this Renekton, right? Renekton's just going to do Renekton tins and just one-shot you and stun you with a full rage bar, and then your health bar goes. So maybe just picking a little bit more priority in their lanes to allow their jungler some time to actually play the game, because the one sure way to lose the game against Chiefs, draft negative lanes, draft for scaling, and let them be proactive.
Cool. All right. Well, congratulations to Chiefs. I mean, they are coming in with some real energy into this, and I feel like I personally, I don't see how they don't take this third game. I feel like it just gets steamed all over. I'm excited to just see like a dominant Chiefs get some momentum and some confidence to be able to take them through the rest of this playoff. So I'm very excited. I'm also very excited that we get to continue the LCK because Juice, you've seen how it works now. You've seen. Here we go. This is the actual game that everyone's
knockout
here for. Let's jump back into the LCK. We've got a few more matchups before we get into the next game of the series. Next up, it's Lux versus Poppy. Lux v Poppy. Who we liking?
I'm gonna let Rusty go first. This one's hard.
You know what? Poppy. You know why?
Why?
Because she's got a big ass hammer. I don't really care for Lux. I think she's a fine character. I think she's like a standard character, that all video games need. She has the Garen brother, like that's a classic story.
Well,
Look at Poppy.
Lux has a big wand.
True.
She got a wand?
Yeah, staff or wand.
Yeah, and I like Lux ultimates, and I like Lux's shields. So I think Lux is the real support champion, and the the one that we are going to be voting for in the,
You know,
in the chat.
I would agree with you if her ult was still called Finalis Funkin, I think, or whatever it was, instead of Final Spark. They changed
really?
its language. Kind of lost me.
Fair enough, actually. I do vibe with that.
I feel like, Juice, you're just here to throw a wrench into the works.
No, dude, if you can't handle the analysis, then you need someone else. I'm just a realist, okay? You can't tell me that Lux doesn't have good shields, have a nice staff or wand.
Yeah.
Also, Luminosity is the Lady of Luminosity is something that is very elegant and really rolls off the tongue. And if English is your 10th language like me, then
Of course.
makes me feel a little bit intelligent that I get to say that word. So
I mean, I'm very impressed that you managed to learn 7 languages over the course of this segment.
no, I don't speak
so
any languages in
congratulations.
between. That's just how bad my English is.
At what point does a wand become a staff? Is it as soon as you can lean on it?
I think it's the amount of hands that you would, on average, have on the weapon.
Right. So if you put if you have to use 2 hands to wield the wand,
It's a
then what
staff.
you've got is a staff.
Yeah, for sure.
Could that just be even if it's like a short staff is a short, like wand length, but staff girth. I guess that's what
Yes.
that's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The girth
that's
of
what
the
we're
staff.
talking about, right? Okay, good. I just wanted to clear that up
Yep.
because I feel like someone in chat was bound to ask, so I just wanted to make sure. Who won this? We didn't decide.
Lux won.
Lux won.
Yeah,
Okay,
Twitch-
cool.
I mean, are we talking about Twitch chat?
Congratulations, Lux.
Chat's not always right. That's the
Oh,
thing
really?
you have to
Okay.
remember, Juice.
No, chat can't be trusted with this. I'm going to give it to Poppy for this.
All
one,
right,
because
fair
Poppy, I like Rusty's argument that that Lux is like the archetype that you need in a game, whereas Poppy is like a little yordle with a massive hammer, and you know, not many games have that because obviously no other game technically has a yordle because that would be copyright infringement. Next up, it's Cassiopeia versus Talon. Cassiopeia v Talon.
No.
Juice.
So
Fight.
Cassiopeia is for sure the better champion because Talon is the most elo inflated champion in the world. It doesn't have to play laning phase. It gets a Tiamat, and are we talking about in-game, by the way?
Whatever you want.
Well, okay.
Whatever you want.
Dude, Talon W's the wave, one-shots it, gets Tiamat, and then just sacks lane and roams and kills 3 people. At least Cassiopeia's got to play the game a little bit, can't buy boots and stuck in the lane.
Yeah, that's a good
So
argument.
you're going with Cassiopeia?
Me? Yes.
Yeah.
I'm Cassio.
Yeah.
Yes.
Rusty.
I'm Team Cassio as well. I have a Medusa tat, man. I love that
okay.
archetype.
That's true.
Yep.
All aboard.
And Talon,
Uh,
Talon is a notorious champion for certain people on Summoner's Rift that break the Summoner's Code.
Right. Okay. That's technically a very good reason. If we got because we are going to pitch Riot at the end of this that all the champions that were eliminated from the LCK are actually taken out of the game. So that's a pretty good reason to not let Talon win there. Chat agrees 80% thinking that
No one likes
Cassiopeia
Talon.
Nah.
wins. No one likes Talon. And pretty soon Talon will be gone from the game. Well, hopefully Direwolves won't be gone from the game after this one, but it is looking more and more likely as the games go on that Chiefs are going to close this out in 3. Can they do it? Let's find out as we jump into game number 3. It's Chiefs versus Direwolves, and it is coming up with the Macca's Champ Select.
And here we go for game number 3. It's all been Things Chiefs so far. They lead flawlessly 2-0. It's not really been a big response from the Direwolves just yet. We've seen small glimpses, but not enough on a consistent level right now. They look to utilize what worked for them or what they thought was a good pick in game number 1. They brought it back in game number 2, but game number 3 now spawned. Surely some big adaptations are necessary. One of those already being the Renekton ban.
Yeah, there has to be some adaptation, right? And when you have a look at the Renekton ban, what does that do? That probably also limits the things like Karthus, potentially even Lilia, coming onto Summoner's Rift. And I think that this is also a great change-up. We've seen Shock twice play Azir try and match range and scaling with his counterparts. And it hasn't worked. He's like an insanely good Orianna Syndra player. I can't believe we haven't seen it before this stage, Skimmy. And Chiefs just going to keep going back to what works. But I think the Direwolves, they've made the changes in the direction they need.
They certainly have. They've opened up with what has to be, you'd say, Shock's best champion this split with that Syndra. His KDA has been insane. His ability to try and command what can be done on the map has also followed in that same kind of mental. We'll get to see how they look to flesh things out. They've gone for the Kaiser most notably to make sure they have some aggressive backline access, really caters towards the Vital playstyle. And I think this is a big adaptation that we wanted to sort of see, because you could see in that last game, no matter how strong he was just getting jumped on and he had no gap closer, which obviously Killer Instinct provides.
Okay, we're going to see our first Lux support of the OPL. I don't think... Have we seen it once?
We have, yeah.
We played it. Isles? I bet you it was Isles.
I would need to double check. We've got 3 games in it so far.
3
but
games?
I have the numbers. Yeah, I haven't got the exact numbers of who played.
I haven't casted any of those, I don't think.
Yeah, we've seen a Lux a fair few times, especially since 10-15 onwards, when it really rose to popularity and what it could achieve. So, going to be a little bit annoying here for them to deal with. Common pairing has to be the Caitlyn Lux, but obviously Ashe is no stranger as well. The adaptation to remove the Karma, but achieve the same thing. Blitz will be their first ban. They were hovering the Akali before, and Dire also going to respond to that by banning it in succession.
And the Akali was hovered, and I wonder if this is one of those bans that, you know, you deliberately hovered a champion that you maybe thought would be a good matchup into the Camille top, just to, you know, put the inkling of doubt into their mind, because obviously they can hold 5th pick here for top lane. I'm sure that Thien can also still just play set top lane. And having a look at who's played it, Draku, Isles, and Artek were the 3 Lux support players, and it is 2-0 when played by a top 5 team, so that's always a good look in the statistics column.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting hover.
Tanky supports removed. Blitzcrank and Leona. No engage, no ability to ensure that the Kaiser's damage will skyrocket. The Calf is also the next adaptation from what had to be, once again, a big MVP stand-up performance there from Krolk. He really accelerated so far and beyond that of his own team, not just his opposition. The Jax is going to be the response. That's going to be what's going to do battle with this Camille. A strong performance also in the same category for Tien, but Direwolves are showing a lot of faith in this Leah pick. We didn't see too much of it demonstrating why it has this priority, but they're going to say this is going to be the game that brings us back into this series.
That's one way to put it, Skivvy. The Lilia last game sucked. Like, it did nothing. It went down legitimately like 3.5 levels, 4 levels, like 100 CS and 4 items. It was just, it was invisible on Summoner's Rift, but obviously we need to see whether it was just an anomaly. Going to go with the Sejuani makes a ton of sense if you're the Chiefs. Whilst Juve said he didn't like it, if you're playing set mid lane and Jack's top lane, Sejuani is probably the best champion to augment these two things. Also probably important to note that it's a set mid lane. So Claire so far has played 3 games of bruiser mids.
Yeah, he's definitely not making himself predictable going into this one. We think of him and Shock having very, very similar champion pools with Orianna and Syndra both being their top 2, but he's saying, I know what's going to happen in this matchup. I know essentially how Shock wants to go into this one because he's a fantastic mage player. I'm going to fight fire with fire and not just have this sort of farm fest where we're waiting for 1 to 2 items. No, I want to be aggressive and I want to jump in to the chaos pit, I suppose we can call it, that the Chiefs so far have fueled so well.
And have you seen much set mid, Skimmy? Has it been played in like the OCS and stuff?
I haven't seen too much. I've always been of the sort of opinion that it can get kited out pretty easily from the games that I have seen, but no doubt it merits a lot of attention in a team like this.
Yeah, because it's one of those weird ones, right, where you take Ghost and Flash because of the exact reason that you just said he gets kited out. He goes Deadman Plate, and a lot of the games he goes Swifty Boots. Mm-hmm. So he's just like there's no real champion like it in League of Legends. He's like a disruptive force. Like, he doesn't necessarily do the most damage. He doesn't necessarily have the highest CC. Mm-hmm. But when you put together like the CC he does have and the damage he does have, he's like a really good disruptor at being able to weave in and out of the fights. And we've seen it a lot in the LCK be successful. Not to mention the fact that you can sustain through so much of the early game damage that comes out of majors And when they changed the cost of Syndra's Q, when they changed the cost of Orianna's Q and W, these champions started to be really heavily limited by their mana issues. So I think that he has an even easier time in the laning phase right now, just being able to survive, scale up, and then have great impact around Summoner's Rift.
He certainly will, because Set does not have mana issues, because he has no mana to start with, so he's not going to have any issues with that regard. Fleet Footwork will be the acquisition here to make life just a little bit easier to sustain, complementing that with the Roar and Shield. But here we go, game number 3. Direwolves backs up against the wall. They need a miracle here. They need a way to get themselves back into the series. As it stands, the Chiefs have had 2 dominating, crushing victories at just that to open up the accounts here in the 2020 playoffs. And they'll be looking to continue that momentum going into this one.
And this is the opposite of what happened in Split 1 playoffs, Skimmy. In Split 1 playoffs, the Direwolves came out. They were playing all these carries in every role. They were just looking to, brawl and pretty much be nuisances. And then they said, this isn't working. Let's play some tanks. Let's play a little bit slower. Let's scale into these fights.
Yeah.
And they wore their opponents down, and it was really successful. Well, this playoffs, they've come in and they've started on the tanks, and they've started on the drawn-out play. It hasn't worked at all. And now in Game 3, their Hail Mary is to actually go back to just playing full aggro composition with a carry in every role apart from Decoy. So now all of the responsibility falls on Decoy to be able to play Bodyguard, Initiator, Water. He's got so many roles on this team, and everyone else is just there to do Mega Deeps.
Mega Deeps is what they'll be hoping for. If the engage can work in their way, then they will definitely be able to achieve that. And it's going to be a tough match, however, as Katsuri, he's on his best AD carry this split. 3 games on the Ashe, undefeated, the best KDA as well. We'll get to see if they have the synergy to lock in place with those arrows. We haven't been seeing the biggest impact so far in the series. But changing the hands as to who will be utilizing it. Could change things up a little bit. The Lux combination, while Squishy is running the Guardian. It's going to be very tanky if an engage like this takes place, as Decoy will look to try and be aggressive. Takes 2 turret shots for his efforts, being level 2 first. And will be forced to burn for those consumables at a rapid pace.
You can see first Hawk shot of the game going out as well, trying to spot the Lilia in a jungle route. See whether it does so. Yes, it does. Very nicely done. Stopping it over the trio of camps. And this is where the Lux and the Ashe should start getting control of the lane. They're still allowing it to push in, which is very interesting to me. Maybe they fear the all-in potential, as Sejuani is on top side of Summoner's Rift, Skimmy. But I feel like they have superior range advantage on both champions. And running lethal tempo means that if you proc lethal tempo off a volley, you just get complete control of the lane for that period of time. Obviously not fighting for it so far. Top lane very spicy. See whether Chippies can look for an all-in here.
Yeah, it's very close for that solo kill, but both junglers are sniffing around in that area right now. They both have the double buff. They could look to try and make something happen. And this is what Miru can excel at, right? Is keeping this Sejuani at an arm's distance, cutting away, working with that passive as you can see that spin go around. And ensure that his health bar continues to deplete from afar. Both Claire and Sejuani now in a bit of trouble. Shock could be in the area. The link up between himself and Miru could prove to be successful. And I think that's what they really need, right? Is they haven't been able to really control any of these objectives. They've had to sacrifice so many of these dragons in particular. And as soon as Chiefs have got that first kill, they've never lost sight of it. If the Direwolves boys can get that initial gold leads, might change the tune of the series.
And it's a much better early game. Granted, it is going to be Croc playing the Sejuani this time around, so definitely not the same level of skirmish potential, but great job from Mir there to be able to bully him off the first Scuttle Crab. Going to be able to cross, get the second one as well, uncontested. Will be just the concede and chop here for the Chiefs jungler. But a small early game lead coming across for Direwolves, and it does seem that they have advantages in all 3 waves. Now, Chippies did burn his teleport back into the top lane, whereas Thean didn't. That will just mean that Chippy's sitting on the 2 Dorians. Blades now has a little bit of free time to go maybe get a cheeky ward on a camp, which he does. It's going to be the Raptors. But CS should be stabilizing up there in the top lane. And I'm interested to see how active Mir can be on this Lilia, because Juves and Rusty, both very critical of Mir so far in this series, said that they expected a little bit more. He is one of the best Lee Sins on the server. Completely agree with that. But has yet to be able to find a major impact in this best of 5 so far.
And Sonny is waiting to find his moment right now. He's gone for a shot, but here comes Croc. Looking to try and keep Shock locked in place. Chippy's obviously investing in himself by using that top teleport. Might be able to get some plates for his efforts, but Tien will have the cross-map play advantage. There goes the Facebreaker, brings him in. The hook goes miss. Shock hits the stun. Pushes him back. No first blood will take place just yet. Shock being very low on his health bar. Did have both summoners available, but I'm sure was very keen to hit level 6 before any big skirmish took place, so he'll be glad that didn't go against him.
And he had to just use the cleanse there, Skimmy. I didn't catch exactly what happened. But I was going to say, Decoy is, in my opinion, one of the best supports in the OPL, probably with Isles, of going mid at the correct time. He just gave his 80 carry so much solo experience. Now, however, the Chiefs all converging on this mid lane turret.
Yeah, and as you highlight, Decoy rotating mid. Here comes Draku looking for the binding across this wall from the Raptors pick, and it just provide a shield for the meantime. And the Chiefs will invest in a bit of sieging damage to try and find their first structure. Bit of extra gold for them. Level 6 is now there. The unleashed power potential could take place. A 3-man stun. That's fantastic. Now, what can Miru find? Can he find himself a lullaby? Well, he doesn't have level 6, so that's definitely off the cards. Both flash forwards and both flash away. As the junglers look to try and be the difference maker in this little skirmish. But the Chiefs will reign supreme, have control, and have the inline track towards the first dragon.
That was actually a really nice play from the Direwolves. They got the teleport out of the end, as well as the flash out of Claire. They're probably the two biggest cooldowns that you'll have going into the first dragon. Lilia does seem to be a lot stronger than Sejuani in these early game skirmishes as well. So across the board, Direwolves finding advantages. They're up 600 gold, but more importantly, they have level 6 to level 5 on jungle. So if they want to start up this bottom side of the map objective in the dragon, I think it should nearly be uncontested at this stage of the game.
A few summons had to be burnt in that previous little skirmish. Only be the Ghost now available for Sep. Make it a little bit harder for him to find that key target to suplex on through. But as you quite rightly point out, both of these bruises top side will no longer have their teleport, so cross-map play is going to be as easy to now achieve. So TN will go for a reset for the wave just outside that turret range.
He's playing a good laning phase so far, TN. He's got another phrase set up for himself. His jungle is pathing towards him. He's going to arrive on the crash. So there's going to be probably a wave in a little bit where Chippies is under serious threat. And they know exactly where the wards are. You can see Croc going to do his double golem. So not looking for a gank first, which is an interesting proposition. Maybe worried that Lily is going to match his path towards the top side of Summoner's Rift and maybe doesn't feel like they win the 2v2 just now.
Where will the first play take place? Will it be one that favours the Direwolves? Will they be able to turn this series around? Well, will the Chiefs, as they've showcased in a back-to-back game so far, find that opening?
This is the Chippy special. Like from years gone by. Croc now has a level 6, however.
He does. He's going to be put to sleep, and he's going to be taken out in the fight straight away. There's the first blood. It goes the way of Chippies. On a comfort champion for him. He wants to carry, and he'll be given the resources to do just that. But a cross-map arrow from bot lane hits him. He's stunned for 200 years. There's no Aphelios, but there is still pain to be delivered, and Chippies gets himself a double.
Yeah, really nicely played from the Direwolves. This game looks completely different from the get-go. Finally, they have some carries on Summoner's Rift. Shockers had complete control over top lane. Chippies pokes his head into the jungle for, I think, the third time. Finally finds himself an opponent to fight, now with 2 kills. Early advantage here for the Direwolves.
Big advantage in a player that likes to rise up for these big occasions. You were mentioning before, he played 2 games in the Ornn, wasn't able to find the level of influence that he'd be no doubt hoping for, but in this matchup here, wants to return back to what really made a name for himself, and that is to be aggressive, to farm up a storm, to create infinite pressure in those side lanes. We've seen that that's been quite characteristic and true of TN as well. If the Chiefs have ever been behind, he is quite rigid in his approach to stick to a side lane, pick up a turret and try and gain a little bit of map control in response. But now we turn our attention to the bot lane, where's Decoy going in for the all-in, pops the ignite, pops the ultimates, and forces Vital to be exhausted. He cleanses, he killer instincts on through, and he removes Katsuri from the equation, flashes away from the binding. Lux will not find the 1-for-1 trade. Croc was on the way. He was looking for a kill to find retribution, but at the 10-minute mark, the die will show up and show up big.
And what a different game that we're looking at. Some unconventional picks coming across. You know, no one really prioritizing Kai'Sa around the world, but it seems to be working right now for Vital. He's up 20 CS again, but this time he has the kill to his name. It wasn't just the straight 2v2. And honestly, Skimmy, it looks like a completely different Direwolves team playing.
The difference a small break can do, and you touched on it already about the Direwolves being one of those teams that have the most collective experience, and they should have the strong mental, right, to bounce back in these best of 5 matchups. You know, there's obviously a lot of talented players in this region, and I suppose we saw glimpses of all the hype and praise thrown their way. Vital had been in such impressive form, but in some of those latter matches, the pressure maybe got to him, but so far he's looking good. And now they want to turn their attention on Claire, make his life a living hell. He's forced to ultimate and he's forced to run away. Hits them with the Haymaker, and that buffer with the grit and shield that it provides cancels out and negates a whole bunch of what Syndra was throwing his way. And with the protection of his team ready to back him on up, the Direwolves aren't able to find anything there.
So, the Direwolves split the map. They go into the topside jungle once again looking for another Scuttle Crab. Thought that might be a cue for Croc to maybe look towards Dragon as he saw the Lilia exit. But the Dragon's been completely ignored for 11 minutes in this game now, Skimmy. And again, Croc is farming very well. He's actually ahead of the solo laners pretty much in gold at this stage of the game. But you just have to say that he hasn't had the same impact on this Sejuani pickup that you would have expected. Now Herald started. Looks like the Chiefs potentially want to look to fight this one.
They're looking for the cross Mavo. This time does not connect. They would have locked them in place for 5 seconds, but that is a fantastic base breaker. 4 members come and touch, and they are falling away as they get locked in place. The blast cone cannot be utilized to disengage away. This Sejuani finds a kill, but a Sejuani gets taken out as quickly as can be. And a 1-for-1 like that spells disaster. Out goes the Counter-Strike, buffers it long enough. But Chippies is huge. Back-to-back double kills. He survived for just long enough with his passive coming in huge. And this time, the Lilia finds Merit. We're questioning it. We're wondering what it's looking to try and achieve. But he is kiting up a storm.
He certainly is. And now finally, series is on. Direwolves look like they had awoken from their slumber. This is a team that at times throughout the year I've said are the best team in the OPL. Looks like they need to throw back to some of the older styles, Skimmy, a little bit more aggression. But it is working right now. They find themselves 5,000 gold up. They finally have the first neutral objectives, and the kills are going their way.
2 games of Camille, and both times they've shown up to the occasion. 1 played on Tien and 1 played here by Chippies. And at the 12-minute mark, he is already on Trinity Force. 4-0-1. He's insanely strong, and as much as the Camille can do wonders in that side lane, when he groups up, he is just finding fights that just should not go his way. He's able to survive on clutch HP. And he says, I want to carry. And carry he most certainly is doing.
And every now and again, a game of League of Legends will just come down to mechanic match. Although, top lane could be a shutdown here.
Certainly could be, as all the hook shot gets cancelled. Q2 will not be utilized here, and a big shutdown goes the way of Jax. TM picks up the golds. Croc finds his first big influence on this matchup. And much like a Camille can pop off, Jax can do just the same.
Yeah, I mean, Jax is potentially even scarier than a Camille. Camille will one-hit you, but Jax just lives forever and will run through the entirety of the team. He's also going to get plates. Teleport wards are being pinged out down bot.
Finding ultimate, but Decoy soaks up so much of that right now. Negates it with his W. As the blue buff was the focus, and it is going to be Shock that picks it up. A 4-man collapse in this bottom wave will mean that the Direwolves will summon that Herald and achieve the first perfect turret. We'll look to try and push things further because Draku is out of resources. He's also going for the recall back to base. So nice bit of tempo here where Direwolves could either go for a second headbutt or turn their attention towards the first Dragon.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Dragon because I haven't seen anyone enter bottom river. They know that the Chiefs bottom lane probably went for that recall. Just let the Herald and all the creeps die to that turret. No point giving over additional farm. Take yourself the Dragon. He's going to be Mountain. Important to be able to deny those ones against the beefy frontliners of the Chiefs Esports Club. See what Dragon we get for the second one. It is going to be air, so we're guaranteed either Soul, Fire Soul, or Water Soul. The 2 best, I think, in League of Legends at the moment. So this game should be an absolute banger.
And I know if I'm a team that's looking to pick these up nice and early, and I'm thinking that's a fantastic Soul to play for a late Dragon by all accounts. We're definitely not going to be seeing a 25-minute Soul. Definitely not a game that favors the Chiefs where they want to be aggressive. We've seen them have such big gold leads already in games 1 and 2 by that 25-minute mark. But much like we want to see, much like what is Direwolves' brand, it's scale, be patient. But in that same kind of category, they're playing with a lot of with a lack of fear, right? They're just making plays and getting away with it.
Well, I think sometimes that's what being on match point does to you. There's two kinds of teams. Like, one team will hold the thought, be ahead looking for maybe a solo play. No, not going to go for it. There's a team that, you know, they go down 2 games, Skimmy, and they say, okay, season's over. You know, let's go out with a, you know, fun champion pool or whatever the case may be. And then there seems to be other teams that say, okay, back against the wall, how are we going to perform? You know, what's our best composition? How are we going to win with it? And from what we've seen, Direwolves are definitely a team that just seems that they never count themselves out of a best of 5. Whilst we're all sitting here talking about how well Chiefs are playing, I can guarantee these players are backstage saying, if we just wake up and play our best League of Legends, we can reverse sweep this again, because we've done it multiple times. In saying that, Chiefs are starting to get a little bit of control around this Jax back.
They certainly are. Both bruises will match one another with the Trinity Force acquisition. Small gold leads, or small CS lead, is in favour of TN. But at the 16-minute mark, the gold does favour the Direwolves. They're up by 5k, and it's going to get a little bit harder for them to recover from, given that a second turret will go their way as well. You can see that Chippies is on the hunt right now. He was feigning a rotate through to mid lane. Both actually had their teleport available if need be, but you can see that Direwolves are hunting for kills.
And it's interesting, right? Because Hook is on.
Oh, there's a hunt and there's a successful acquisition. They lock in place clear. There's the Nautilus. There's the Scatter of the Week. But he can look to buffer a lot of that damage and walk away from that one.
Yeah, isn't Set just a fun champion? He's turned into like a beefy boy. Like, he doesn't really do all that much. He runs around. His ultimate is like 90% of his damage nowadays. But he's just a tank. He's just a brick wall. Very hard to run through him. And what I was going to say is it's really interesting because both the hyper carries are the one getting all the resources right now. So Jax, one of the old school hyper carries from the top lane. But Kai'Sa, with this mana mute, does so much damage to him, especially if he is able to itemize AP. Now, I don't necessarily know he can, given the fact that there is a Syndra and a Lilia on his team. But if we're going to see the AP 40% cooldown reduction Kai'Sa, we could be in for like a real treat, because Vital has been given every resource at his disposal to be able to carry this game.
Certainly has. We've only seen him play the Kai'Sa once. That was into Mammoth, when Mammoth ran the Xerath Caitlyn composition, so they were playing with maximum range and efficiency. Went to a bit of a hybrid that time around. He was running the Ludens, Nashes, and the Rage Blade. A lot of cooldown reduction. A lot of ability to be the playmaker on his team. Similar composition. We had the Nautilus there. We had the Camille also for Chippy. So an argument could be made that would see that itemization preference.
And the reason that itemization is so cool is because it's actually like a hybrid poke build. Sure, he has insane all-in, but those Ws that you're seeing, they go into like a 4-second cooldown if you hit people with them, and they do so much magic damage. So I really like the AP build. They're actually looking to catch out Vital now.
They certainly are. Out goes the Glacial Prison, but the arrow will go miss. They're not going to connect, but there's the passive and there's the stun. Decoy going to fall on down. Katsuri picks up the goods, gets the kill. And now the Chiefs can look to abuse this jungle just a little bit further. They're going to now pick up a red buff. That's going to be spoon-fed to TN. The Jax are going to have insane pick potential. He'll have the shutdown. He'll have the lockdown. And if a Jax gets on top of you, you're not going to be able to run away from him.
Especially a Jax that's going this build. I assume that's going to be a Death Stance second picked up for TN.
Oh, hang on. There's that flash to create some gap. Then he actually takes the Lilia into his team. That almost certainly guarantees now that the mid-tier one will fall on down. They're going to even up the turret score 2-2. And the Chiefs are making sure that whilst the Direwolves have had a much better start this time around, we are the team fight kings.
And Skimmy, even when the early game goes well for the Direwolves, the mid game is just falling apart. The Chiefs look so much more proactive on Summoner's Rift right now. They get a pick off the red buff. While there's still a member down, they collapse around the mid lane. They're going to be able to take down the second dragon of the game. That means even with the lead that the Direwolves have, it's going to be the latest Soul point ever. So Soul kind of becomes irrelevant in this one. Chiefs starting to strike back.
They certainly are. They're going to equal things up with not only the 2 turrets, but also a Dragon apiece as well. The Direwolves will look to create a little bit more pressure elsewhere on the map. You can see them grouping up right now for a little bit of a cheeky play, maybe a bit of an interaction topside to take down this Jax. But much like the red buff will stun away from them, they're going to do the same as well.
And it is quite interesting because the Chiefs are playing very respectfully. They take the Dragon, but they let mid lane turret go down as well as red buff. This is going to be an instant Baron start.
Wow.
Chiefs don't know.
Baron spawns at 20 minutes, and as it spawns, they start it. There's the Lux Laser, they know they're here, but it's just getting shredded like nobody's business. They can run away from that Ash Arrow. It is going to be decoy that takes it up, but the Dredge line to try and disengage away as if the Flash, he does not. But do they have enough time to try and protect him? No, he's just going to be the one left for bodyguard duties, protect the rest of the team, ensure that the Baron busts remain. He'll fall on down, but the rest of the Direwolves have disengaged. Oh no, oh no! The empowered recall, Miru 40 had enough! He was greedy for it, but the Chiefs continue the hunt! They'll pick up 2!
And that's really crucial because now they've staggered the death timers as well, so another 20 seconds gone off that Baron buff by the time that everyone from the Direwolves are back up and available. In saying that, if you're going to lose 2 members for a 20-minute Baron, it is important for them to be support in jungle. They're not going to be the people empowering the lane, so I still think that this is a great play for the Direwolves. Really well called to just be able to start that one up instantly and know you're going to be able to win it. Gives some hope for these side laners in the Syndra as well as the Camille to be able to push people out and maybe even look to break the base.
Breaking the base is what they're doing as Tien matches the map control. Picks up that top turret as well. Now vision control becomes more important than ever. What is the play here for the Direwolves? How can they look to best utilize this Baron buff? We've seen a lot of them be utilized as a shoving incentivizer, others to try and stabilize. Well, they're the ones in the driving seat so far. They've had 5k gold leads, they've had 6k, but a few fights that have gone the way of Chiefs. Continue to make sure that the gold lead doesn't get out of their grasp. Now sitting at 4.
The objective should always be the same. When you have Baron buff and the enemy carries don't have flash, you should be looking to break the base through decisive play. And I think the big key to victory here for the Direwolves is Vital, once again, 2 levels up over his opponent. Once again, 40 CS up over. So you just play around Vital. Like, you do not make a play unless the Kai'Sa is on your screen. You can push in waves, you can have some aggression, but really, if you're going to fight, Vital needs to be the man in those fights.
I mean, look at him right now. He is up by so much CS. He's up by 2 levels over this Ashe as well. As much as we can look to sing the praises of a 2 to 3 item bruiser in that top side. This is a Kai'Sa pick. That fits the narrative here for Vital. They've got to be careful. They can face check in, but a sweeper will reveal. Everybody's investing now into this top lane. They want to take down this outer. They want to make it just a little bit easier to take back-to-back objectives.
And the issue here with the Direwolves comp is they're so low range that no one wants to step up and hit the turret. Because if they do, and they get, you know, proc ulted into Claire ultimate, this could be a turnaround team fight. So instead, they're just looking to slowly chip it away with those empowered up cannon creeps. Chippy's now split pushing in the mid lane, but this could be the time that the Chiefs go, because they have rotated Katsuri over here.
Keep your eye on Claire. Doesn't have a flash, doesn't have a ghost, but it's still a big menace there with the showstopper. Wave after wave, the pressure continues. Direwolves are finally able to take it down. And as you quite rightly point out, the other waves are prepped pretty nicely here for the Direwolves to keep Chiefs in a situation of having to respond to those. A minute away, and we have an Ocean Soul to play for.
So 5,000 gold lead right now for the Direwolves, and I would guess that a lot of that is probably in the jungle and 80 carry positions, just given how the game has gone. But across the board, you would have to say it's equalized, you know, pretty nicely for the Chiefs. Claire is only going to be there for utility. He doesn't need to be equal power to this Syndra. Shock also probably actually has himself a couple of thousand gold lead, just having a look at the items that he's been able to pick up. But really, it's about whether Thien and Croc can do their jobs in team fights and be this big, beefy frontline. Because if they can, it's going to be a difficult game for the Direwolves to navigate. In saying that, you know, this is why I loved Kai'Sa initially when she was brought out. She's the only champion if there's some CS. Oh, hold the thought. This is a fight.
Yeah, this is a bit scary right now. The Glacial Prison gets chucked on out, but the Hextech ultimatum is used to good effect. Claire's locked in place. He can't even use that ultimate. He's dead and done. He burnt the ghost, but he can't utilize that flash. Now Tien, a potential second casualty. The Counter-Strike goes on out, but he's going to fall on down. No to the layers. Camille gets another kill. That flash is used defensively. There's no turret to protect them. They run back to the safety of what is their mid lane inhibitor. And the Direwolves will find some very good kills at a fantastic time as well. The third dragon spawns. It's not been a game dominating by the kills. It's been a lot more elegant in a macro aspect. And this plays into the Direwolves' strengths.
Yeah, well, isn't that exactly what we said? You know, if you take every single team fight, the Chiefs will find a way to beat you in a couple of them. But if you really pick your moment and go hard, then it should be the Direwolves coming out ahead. Big creep wave in the top lane can be absorbed right now for the Chiefs. Gold going to sit relatively even, but as you mentioned, the fact that they were able to get, you know, double summoner spells out of Katsuri, flash out of Draku as well as the dragon being taken down there. Direwolves just continue to inch further and further ahead in this game.
They're doing the damn best there, Spawn. I tell you that much. Look at some of these items we're seeing come on through now. Vital is on a fantastic power spike. He's got the Nash's Tooth there to do wonders. It's kind of what you were mentioning before, right? What kind of variation will we get? Well, this is much like we saw him in the Mammoth game. He has a fair bit of CDR and the ability to say, well, if I've got uptime, not only can I poke, with the Rage Blade fully stacked up as well, I do a lot of damage, and we're looking to try and dive a backline target, explode them as quickly as possible, make sure that this fight does not last long enough for the Jax to get uptime, for the Ashe to run rampant and do its wonders. It's a scary situation where the Chiefs are being bullied out of their jungle.
Chiefs are just being bullied everywhere. And when you have a look at them, they're not able to go to the side lanes well enough, but they don't have necessarily the hard engaged tools. And that's what I was talking about. The W poke out of Vital is going to become a real problem. There's not many more of those that you can eat.
He needs a minion wave to hit. He needs to life leech back as much as he can right now. We'll be spoon-fed that one. The missiles continue. The shields have to be clutched so far. Draku is a little bit cautious. That's going to be crop locked in place right now. Going to dash on forward. Has the stacks going on through. The missile is not going to connect. Neither is the arrow. Out goes the laser. Vital in trouble. Forced to flash away defensively. He's going to try and turn around. There goes the lullaby. There's the damage. The missile connect. There's a double kill for Amira. He's doing whatever he can. Put your faith in me and I will respond. The Direwolves, not a single member falls on down. They'll find their first ace in this series and a decisive one at the 27-minute mark.
And Skimmy, that'll do it. That'll be game. The Direwolves, they're going to hit back. They're going to put one on the board, and it is behind their superstar AD carry. Vital flew into the backline, baited everyone out, and they were able to turn the team fight. Direwolves finally arrive in this series.
What did the Direwolves have prepared for this series? It looked like a 2-0. It did not look like a Direwolves that we sing their praises for. The Chiefs did not get to play their playstyle this time. They thought they had all the momentum in the world. They thought it'd be a clean 3-0. But the Direwolves change things up. They go back to basics. They pop off and carry. And they're bringing this one to a game 4.
And look at the difference in the solo lanes. For the first two games, Chippies and Shock were irrelevant. This time, it was a collective 9-1 and 14, I think, across those two players. Only one death between them. Complete control of laning phase. That is the Direwolves that teams in the OPL are terrified of.
They most certainly are. The Chiefs still sitting on a match point. They'll be looking to try and close things out in this next game. But as for the Direwolves, they've been here before. Can they do it again? We'll find out after the break.
Today is the NeoSurf Cup, and we're going to be playing against Misfits, so hopefully we can bring home the win.
NeoSurf is simple, safe and secure. You can go to your local shop and get a voucher code and use it online, preferably to buy League of Legends skins.
He's got it! This is deadly! He's got it!
If you're craving the taste of your favourites, head to Macca's for a fast, safe and contactless drive-through experience. For your Macca's run, contact-free, we'll be here.